Have you ever looked at a piece of antique furniture and felt a shiver of curiosity? Have you ever wondered about the hands that touched it, the secrets it witnessed, the lives that unfolded around it? We fill our homes with these silent objects, but sometimes, if we are lucky, they decide to speak. Today, I want to share a story that found me. It began with a simple purchase, an old, forgotten writing cabinet, but it unlocked a secret that had been sealed away for nearly 100 years. Inside a hidden compartment, I found a bundle of letters, a time capsule of a forbidden love from a world we can barely imagine. This is the story of two young lovers who risked everything for a chance at freedom. It's a story of a daring plan to escape a gilded cage, and of a powerful father who would stop at nothing to keep them apart. As I read their words, I followed them through a labyrinth of breathtaking hope, devastating heartbreak, and a final, shocking secret that I almost missed. As you listen, I invite you to become a detective with me. Put yourself in their shoes and ask yourself, what would you risk for the person you love? And when all hope seems lost, where does true courage come from? This story is one that will stay with you, and I am incredibly eager to hear your perspective on it. So please, as the story unfolds, share your thoughts in the comments below. I want to know what you would have done. And if you believe that every forgotten object holds a story waiting to be told, make sure you subscribe and join our community of memory keepers. Now, let's open the first letter together. Let's break a century of silence. It all started with a piece of furniture I never intended to buy. I have a weakness for forgotten things, for the stories that linger in the grain of old wood and the tarnish of old brass. My Saturdays are often spent wandering through dusty antique shops, not searching for anything in particular, but waiting for something to find me. That's how I found the cabinet. Tucked away in the back corner of a cluttered shop called The Past is Present, it was a tall, dark mahogany secretary desk, imposing and elegant even under a layer of dust. The shop owner, a gruff man with flour on his apron, gave me a price that was far too reasonable to refuse. He said it had come from an estate clearance in the countryside, a grand old house that was being gutted and turned into a hotel. Once I got it home and began the long process of cleaning and polishing it, I started to appreciate its hidden details. There were small, hand-carved roses on the drawer pulls and a faint, almost imperceptible scent of lavender and old paper that clung to the wood. It was while I was cleaning the main writing drawer that my fingers brushed against something that felt wrong. A slight unevenness in the wood at the very back. My heart gave a little flutter of excitement. I've read about such things, secret compartments, hidden drawers. Pushing and prodding gently, I felt a section of the back panel give way with a soft click. It wasn't a drawer, but a false bottom. And nestled inside that hollow space, wrapped in a faded blue silk ribbon, was a small, tight bundle of letters. They were as delicate as dried leaves, the paper yellowed to the color of old ivory. The ribbon crumbled slightly as I untied it. There must have been 24 envelopes, all addressed in two distinct styles of handwriting. One was an elegant, sloping cursive, the ink a faded sepia. The other was bolder, more urgent, written in a dark, determined black ink. I felt a pang of guilt, a sense of intrusion, holding these private thoughts in my hands. But the pull was too strong. I was no longer just the cabinet's new owner. I was the custodian of a story that had been locked away for nearly a century. I carefully picked the first letter from the top. The paper was so thin I could almost see through it, and as I unfolded it, I noticed a faint, dark smudge near the bottom, a circular stain that could only have been made by a tear that fell and dried long ago. The first words, written in that beautiful, flowing script, sent a shiver down my spine. This wasn't just a story, it was a life captured on paper, and I was about to live it. Before I share the words from that first letter, I have to describe the feeling of holding it. The air in my quiet living room seemed to grow still, heavy with anticipation. The only sound was the rustle of the brittle paper as I carefully unfolded it. The date at the top read April 12th, 1928. Nearly 100 years of silence were about to be broken. I could almost imagine the young woman writing it, her pen scratching softly in a candlelit room, pouring her soul onto the page. This is what she wrote. My dearest Sebastian, another week has passed, and this house feels more like a prison with each setting sun. Father returned from London yesterday, and his mood is as grim as the storm clouds that have been gathering over the moors. He speaks of industry, of mergers, of securing the family name. He looks at me and does not see a daughter. He sees a chess piece, a valuable asset to be married off to solidify some new business alliance. He has begun mentioning Lord Harrington's son again. A man I have met twice, whose entire personality seems to consist of a loud laugh and the smell of stale brandy. The thought of it, Sebastian, makes my blood run cold. My only escape is in these letters to you, and in the memories of our last meeting in the city. Do you remember? The little bookshop near the museum, with the smell of old leather and rain-soaked coats. For one afternoon, I was not Beatrice Croft, daughter of a titan of industry. I was just Beatrice, with you. The way you looked at me, it was the first time I felt truly seen. Here, I am an ornament. A pretty doll to be displayed and admired, but never listened to. I keep your drawing hidden inside my copy of Wuthering Heights. It's the small charcoal sketch you did of the robin in the park. Sometimes, at night, I take it out and press it to my cheek. It feels like a promise of another world, a world where the sky is not framed by the bars of my bedroom window. Is it foolish to hold on to such a dream? Father's watchfulness has grown more intense since my last trip to London. He questions every letter I receive, every book I read. I write this by the light of a single candle, long after the rest of the house has fallen into a slumber as deep and cold as the portraits of my ancestors lining the halls. Please, tell me you received my last letter. Tell me I am not just imagining that world we spoke of. Tell me it's real. Forever yours, Beatrice. My hands were trembling slightly as I finished reading. I could feel her suffocation, the weight of her gilded cage. This wasn't just a romance, it was a desperate plea for freedom. I immediately looked for the next letter in the stack, needing to know if her Sebastian had replied. I found it quickly. The handwriting was the bold, black ink I'd seen on the envelopes. The date was just 4 days later, April 16th, 1928. His response was a lifeline thrown into the darkness. My dearest Beatrice, your letter arrived this morning, a ray of light in my cramped and dreary London flat. Never, for a moment, think that the world we spoke of is not real. It is more real than any of your father's ledgers or business alliances. It exists in every brushstroke I make, in every word I write. It exists in the hope you give me. The thought of you with Harrington's son is a dagger to my heart. He is not worthy of breathing the same air as you, let alone standing beside you. You are not an ornament, Beatrice. You are a masterpiece. A mind full of fire and a heart full of courage. Your father may own the house you live in, but he does not own you. He never will. I fear for you. The desperation in your words is a tangible thing, something I can feel across the miles. It makes me want to storm the gates of that cold estate and carry you away. But we must be clever. We must be patient. Your father is a powerful man, and we cannot afford a single mistake. But this cannot continue. I will not stand by while he barters away your future. We need more than a dream, my love. We need a plan. I am working, selling some illustrations to a magazine. It is not much, but it is a start. Every shilling I save is another brick in the foundation of the life we will build together, far from his shadow. Do not lose hope. Hold on to that promise. I am thinking of you, always. Yours, and yours alone. Sebastian. I put the letter down, my mind racing. A plan. The story was shifting. It was no longer about a secret, impossible love, but about a daring, dangerous escape. The stakes had just been raised, and I was holding the blueprint in my hands. The next several letters in the bundle mark a shift in tone. The initial, desperate hope begins to crystallize into a tangible, dangerous conspiracy. Weeks turned into months, and with each exchange, the plan grew, layer by painstaking layer. As I sorted them by date, I could see the seasons changing not just outside my window, but within their words. The hopeful spring gave way to a tense, simmering summer. It was clear that Sebastian's talk of a plan was not just a comforting platitude. It was a promise he was determined to keep, no matter the cost. His letters, dated through May and June of 1928, started to include small, coded details. He'd write about a painting he was working on, describing a cottage by the sea in Cornwall, with a small garden for roses and a studio window overlooking the waves. I realized he wasn't just describing a piece of art, he was describing their future home. He was making it real for her, and for himself. He mentioned taking on extra work, illustrating anatomical textbooks, foregoing sleep to save every penny. I found myself admiring his resolve, this man I only knew through his bold, black ink. He was fighting for her with the only weapons he had, his talent and his unwavering will. Beatrice's letters, in turn, became a mixture of breathless anticipation and gnawing fear. She was no longer just a passive prisoner. She was an active participant in her own escape. July 10, 1928. My dearest Sebastian, your description of the cottage in Cornwall has become my sanctuary. When father's voice echoes through the halls, booming about share prices and political ties, I close my eyes and I am there with you. I can almost smell the salt in the air and feel the sun on my face. It is this vision that keeps me from screaming. Something has changed here. Father's temper has grown shorter, his gaze more suspicious. Last week, he dismissed my governess, Miss Albright, a woman who has been with me since I was a child. His reason was that I am of an age where I no longer require a chaperone, but I know the truth. He saw the kindness in her eyes. He is systematically removing anyone from this house who shows me a hint of affection or leniency. My world is shrinking, Sebastian. The walls are closing in. I have begun to do as you suggested. Each week, when my allowance is provided, I have been hiding a small portion of it. I managed to sell a pearl hairpin, one of the few pieces of jewelry that was my mother's, that he might not notice is missing, to one of the maids whose sister works in the village. It felt like a terrible betrayal of my mother's memory, but I told myself she would have wanted me to be free. The money is hidden in a loose floorboard beneath my bed, wrapped in an old handkerchief. It is not much, but it is a start. It is my contribution to Cornwall. His watchfulness is making this correspondence increasingly perilous. I have to bribe the stable boy to post my letters when he goes to the village for supplies. His silence costs me £1 a week, a shilling that could be going towards our future. Every word I write to you feels like a risk, a small rebellion. But it is a risk I will take 1,000 times over. Are you safe? I worry about you, alone in that vast city. Please, take care of yourself. You are all I have. Forever yours. Beatrice. As I read this, I noticed something I hadn't before. The edges of this particular letter were slightly frayed, more so than the others. It was as if she had held onto it, rereading it, folding and unfolding it countless times before daring to send it. I could feel her anxiety radiating from the page. She was walking a tightrope, and the chasm below was getting deeper. The mention of the stable boy sent a chill down my spine. A secret is only as safe as the people you entrust it to. This brave, desperate girl was placing her entire future in the hands of a young boy, held together by a few coins and a prayer. The beautiful, romantic dream was now a dangerous, intricate operation, and a single loose thread could unravel everything. The tension in the letters became almost unbearable as summer waned and the cold breath of autumn began to creep in. The dates on the envelopes were closer together now, their correspondence becoming more frequent, more frantic. The careful planning was escalating into a desperate countdown. Sebastian's letters were no longer just filled with promises of a distant future. They were now filled with instructions, maps, and timetables. I found one letter from late August that contained a small, hand-drawn map. It was a simple sketch of the grounds of Beatrice's estate, with a path marked in red ink leading from the back of the house, through the gardens, and to a small, seldom-used gate on the western edge of the property. Below the map, he had written, "The 11:45 p.m. train to Penzance. It is a slow train, makes many stops. They will not think to look for you on it. I will be in the last carriage. We will be ghosts, gone before the sun rises." This was it, the point of no return. As the narrator, as the discoverer of these letters, I felt my own pulse quicken. I was no longer a passive reader. I was a witness, holding the very blueprint of their escape. I could picture Beatrice, hiding this map, memorizing the route, her heart pounding with a mixture of terror and exhilaration. Her reply, dated September 3rd, 1928, was the shortest, most visceral letter yet. "Sebastian, I have the map. I have the timetable. My hand trembles so much I can barely write these words. The date you proposed. October 31st. All Hallows Eve. It is perfect. The staff will be distracted by preparations for Father's annual harvest ball. They host it for the tenants and local dignitaries. The house will be chaotic. A night of masks and celebration. A perfect night for a ghost to slip away unnoticed. But something has happened. Father announced it at dinner this evening. He did not ask. He informed me. My engagement to Lord Harrington's son will be formally announced at the ball. He stood at the head of the table, his voice like iron, sealing my fate in front of 24 guests. I felt the blood drain from my face. I could not speak. It is no longer a vague threat, my love. It is a date in a diary. A ceremony to be planned. A life sentence. We cannot wait. Your plan must work. It is my only hope now. I have gathered all the money I could. It is enough for a one-way ticket and perhaps a little more. I have also packed a small bag with only what is essential. My mother's locket, your drawing, and a sensible dress. It is hidden in the old chest at the foot of my bed. I am so frightened. Every creak of the floorboards in this old house sounds like my father's footsteps coming to discover our secret. The other day, as I was walking near the west gate, I saw him speaking with the stable boy, the one who posts our letters. The boy could not meet my eyes afterward. Did father suspect something? Was he questioning him? Or is this fear just eating away at my sanity? I pray it is the latter. October 31st. I will be at the gate at 11:30 p.m. Do not be late. If I am not there, assume the worst. Assume I have been caught. But I will be there. I must be. Yours, always. Beatrice. I had to put the letter down and take a deep breath. The detail about the stable boy, it was a splash of ice water. A potential betrayal that could bring the entire, fragile plan crashing down. And the finality of her words, assume the worst, hung in the air of my quiet room. The story had reached its precipice. The date was set. The stakes were life and death, freedom and a gilded cage. But there was another envelope in the pile, one I hadn't noticed before. It was postmarked October 29th, just 2 days before the planned escape. But the handwriting wasn't Beatrice's elegant script or Sebastian's bold hand. It was a third, unfamiliar scrawl, and it was addressed not to London, but to Beatrice, right at her family's estate. My blood ran cold. The answer to what happened next, I knew, lay inside that strange, ominous envelope. My fingers hesitated over the strange envelope. Everything about it felt wrong. It was thicker than the others, the paper of a cheaper, rougher quality. The address was written in a clumsy, blocky print, a stark contrast to the elegant hands of the two lovers. It had been sent from the local village, just a few miles from the Croft estate. My heart sank. I knew, with a dreadful certainty, that this letter was the stone that would trigger the avalanche. It was dated October 29th, 1928, a lifetime away in just 2 days. With a deep breath, I carefully slit it open. Inside, there was a single sheet of coarse paper, folded once. The writing was the same as on the envelope, hurried and slightly skewed, as if written against a rough surface. The message was short, unsigned, and utterly devastating. It was not a letter, it was a warning. Miss Beatrice, I am sorry. I had no choice. The master, your father, he cornered me in the stables. He has a way of looking at you, like he can see every secret you've ever kept. He knew about the letters. I don't know how, but he did. He asked me who they were for. He threatened my family. My father works on the tenant farm. My sister is a maid in the great house. I could not let him ruin them. I told him everything. About London. About the man named Sebastian. He took the letter you gave me yesterday, the one meant for Mr. Sebastian. He has it now. He knows about the train. He knows about the gate on All Hallows Eve. He said he has a surprise planned for the ball, and he laughed when he said it. It was not a kind laugh, miss. It was a terrible sound. I am a coward, but I could not live with myself if I did not warn you. He is watching you. Do not go to the gate. It is a trap. Please, burn this note. Forgive me. I had to read it twice to fully absorb the weight of the betrayal, and the terror that must have coursed through Beatrice's veins. I could picture the scene with horrifying clarity. Her father, a man of immense power and cold fury, towering over a terrified stable boy. The quiet, pastoral life of the boy's family held hostage, all for a secret he was paid $1 a week to keep. It was no choice at all. And the final, chilling detail, that her father had intercepted her last letter to Sebastian. This meant that Sebastian was completely unaware. He would be traveling to the rendezvous, full of hope, walking straight into a trap set by a ruthless, angry man. I sat back in my chair, the small, damning note resting on the polished wood of the cabinet. The story was no longer about two lovers planning an escape. It had become a tragedy in motion. The laugh her father made, a terrible sound. I could almost hear it. This was a man who wouldn't just stop his daughter. He would seek to destroy the man who had dared to love her, to offer her a world beyond his control. I imagined Beatrice, in her room, this note trembling in her hand. The hope that had sustained her for months, extinguished in a single, cruel moment. Her sanctuary had become a cage with a locked door, and her father held the key. Her only thought, her only desperate, frantic impulse, must have been to warn Sebastian. But how? With every servant a potential spy and every letter a potential piece of evidence, what could she possibly do? The secret was out, and the night of the ball was fast approaching. The silence in the aftermath of that warning note felt profound. I shuffled through the remaining letters, my hands feeling clumsy, my heart heavy with dread. What could possibly come next? How do you write a letter when you know your father is watching your every move, that he holds the last words you wrote to the man you love in his hand? And then I found it. It was the last letter in Beatrice's hand. It was not in an envelope. It was a single sheet of her fine, personal stationery, folded over and over into a tiny, tight square, as if she meant to conceal it in the palm of her hand. The page was a mess. The elegant cursive was gone, replaced by a frantic, barely legible scrawl. The ink was a watery, smudged grey in several places, and I knew with certainty that I was looking at the dried patterns of her tears. The date, October 30th, 1928, was slashed across the top. This was her final, desperate attempt. Sebastian, my love, my only love. Do not come. I beg of you, do not come. He knows. My father knows everything. The gate, the train, your name. He has my last letter to you. He is setting a trap, and I am the bait. The stable boy warned me. I cannot explain how, but I know this is true. You must not come near this place. If you are reading this, it means by some miracle it has reached you. But I do not know how I will even send it. My world has ended. He confronted me tonight. He did not yell. That would have been a mercy. He was calm, with a smile that never reached his eyes. He held up my letter to you, the one full of our plans, of my love, and he asked me if I truly believed a penniless artist could offer me more than he could. He said he would not have you arrested. He said that was too simple. He said he would educate you on the consequences of aiming above your station. The venom in his voice, Sebastian. I have never known such fear. He has locked me in my room. He says I will remain here until the ball, where I will go before all our guests and smile as my engagement is announced. I will play the part of the dutiful daughter, or he swears he will find you, no matter where you go, and ruin you in ways I cannot imagine. He will destroy your art, your name, your very spirit. I cannot let that happen. Your life, your freedom to create, is more important than my own. So I will do as he says. I will wear the dress he chooses. I will smile for the photographers. And I will die 1,000 deaths inside. This is goodbye. I do not know how I will live the rest of my life, but it will be without you. Please, forget me. Live a long, happy life. Paint the cottage by the sea, even if I am not there to see it. Find someone who can be with you in the sun. Do not let him destroy you. Do not let my memory be a shadow that follows you. I love you more than I have words to say. I will love you until my last breath. Beatrice. I folded the letter, my own eyes burning. This letter was never sent. It couldn't have been. Locked in her room, with no allies left, she must have written it as a final testament, a message to a lover she would never see again. She must have hidden it in the secret compartment of the cabinet, perhaps in the faint hope that one day, someone might find it and know the truth. This was her real goodbye, not to him, but to the world. She was sacrificing her own happiness to save his life. The story had reached its tragic climax. The escape had failed. Beatrice was trapped forever, and Sebastian, unaware of any of this, was still on a collision course with a terrible fate on a cold October night. I placed Beatrice's unsent letter down with a sense of finality. It felt like the end. A story of love and hope, brutally concluded by a father's cruelty. For a long while, I simply sat there, staring at the small pile of remaining envelopes. What more could they possibly say? Beatrice's voice had been silenced. Her fate, it seemed, was sealed within the cold walls of her father's house. But what about Sebastian? My thoughts immediately went to him, the hopeful lover walking into a trap. Did he escape her father's wrath? Did he ever learn the truth? My hands moved almost automatically, sorting through the last few letters. They were all in his bold, black ink, all addressed to Beatrice. My breath caught in my throat when I saw the date on the top one, November 1st, 1928. The morning after. He had written to her the very next day. I unfolded the paper, my heart aching with a sorrow that felt both ancient and immediate. I was about to read the words of a man whose world had shattered the night before, even if he didn't fully know it yet. My dearest Beatrice. Where were you? I waited. I stood in the biting wind by the west gate until the church bell chimed twice, my love. The moon was hidden by clouds, and every shadow seemed to mock me. I called your name in a whisper, a prayer lost to the night. I thought perhaps I had mistaken the time, or the place, but I checked the map 100 times. This was our spot. This was our moment. My mind has been consumed by 1,000 terrible possibilities. Were you taken ill? Did your courage fail you? No, I cannot believe that. Your courage is a fire that could burn down your father's entire estate. Then only one thought remains, a thought so cold it freezes the blood in my veins. He discovered you. Your father found out. I am back in my flat, but I have not slept. How can I sleep when I do not know if you are safe? The city feels like a tomb this morning. The grey light filtering through my window feels like an accusation. I am helpless. I pace this small room like a caged animal, my mind replaying the silence of last night, the crushing emptiness of that gate. I thought I saw movement once, around midnight. A carriage leaving the main drive at speed, but it was too far to see who was inside. Was it him? Had he sent men to wait for me? Was your absence a warning? A sign that I should flee? I will not flee. Not until I hear from you. I will not abandon you. Whatever has happened, we will face it. Send me a sign, Beatrice. Anything. A single word. Use the stable boy if you can, or find another way. Tell me you are safe. Tell me you are still mine. Until I hear from you, I will wait. I will haunt the post office every morning, searching for your handwriting, for a sign that our dream is not dead. All my love, now and forever. Sebastian. I had to close my eyes. The dramatic irony was devastating. He was still holding on to hope, begging for a sign from a woman who was locked away, unable to answer, a woman who had already said her final goodbye in a letter he would never receive. He was waiting for a ghost. The carriage he saw leaving in the dead of night. My mind conjured chilling images. Was it Beatrice's father, coming to enact his education? Or was it something else entirely? Sebastian's letter was a testament to his faith in her, a faith that I, a stranger from the future, knew was tragically misplaced. He was standing on the edge of a cliff, and I was the only one who could see the ground had already crumbled beneath his feet. The next few letters were a chronicle of a heart breaking in slow motion. As I laid them out, I could trace the slow, agonizing death of Sebastian's hope. His bold handwriting, once so full of confidence and passion, began to fray at the edges. The strokes became more hurried, the words more desperate. He wrote again on November 5th, then on the 10th. Each letter was a variation of the same theme: frantic worry, unanswered questions, and declarations of unwavering love. Beatrice, my love, the silence is a torture worse than any physical pain, he wrote in one. In another, I walked past the London house yesterday. The curtains were all drawn. It felt like a mausoleum. I keep telling myself that no news is good news, but the optimism is wearing thin, like an old coat in winter. Then came a letter dated November 20th, 1928. The tone had changed. The frantic edge was gone, replaced by a hollow, aching void. It was clear something had broken him. My Beatrice. I know now. I suppose I should thank the society pages for their cruelty. At least it is a definitive end to the torture of not knowing. I saw it this morning. In a newspaper someone had left on a cafe table. A small announcement, tucked away between an article about a charity auction and a report on the winter racing season. A single paragraph that destroyed my entire world. A marriage is announced between Lord Ashworth, eldest son of the Earl of Harrington, and Miss Beatrice Croft, only daughter of industrialist Alistair Croft. The engagement was celebrated at a private ball on All Hallows' Eve at the Croft Country Estate. The wedding is planned for the spring. So that was his surprise. The laughter you wrote of. While I was standing in the cold, waiting for you, he was raising a glass inside, toasting your union with another man. He did not just trap you, he paraded you. He cemented your prison walls with social decorum and public announcement. There is no escape from that. I finally understand. Your silence was not a choice. It was a command. And I understand now that you will never be able to reply. To do so would put you, and perhaps me, in even greater danger. He has won. He has taken you from me as surely as if he had locked you in the Tower of London. There is nothing left for me here. Every street corner in this city holds a memory of you. The bookshop, the pack, the bridge over the Thames. They are all ghosts now. I have sold my commission with the publisher. I am packing my few belongings. I am leaving London. I think I will go to Paris, or perhaps further. Somewhere I can lose myself. Somewhere I can try to forget the color of your eyes. This will be my last letter. I cannot write to you anymore. It is too painful and too dangerous for you. Know that I will never love another. Know that you were the one great, true thing in my life. I hope you find some small measure of peace in the life he has chosen for you. I pray he does not break your beautiful spirit. Goodbye, my love. Sebastian. And that was it. Sebastian's voice, gone. He had accepted her fate and disappeared into the world to nurse his broken heart. The correspondence was over. I looked at the small, empty space on the table where the letters had been. It felt like a fresh grave. The cruelty of it all was staggering. 2 lives, irrevocably broken by the whim of a powerful man. I began to carefully gather the letters, to tie the faded blue ribbon around them once more, to put them back to rest. But as I reached for the last one, my fingers brushed against something at the very bottom of the secret compartment. It was one final envelope. It was much newer, the paper a crisp white, and it was not addressed to anyone. There was just a single word written on the front, in a shaky, elderly hand I did not recognize. Confession. The single word, confession, seemed to absorb all the light in the room. It was not a title, but a label for a soul's final burden. The handwriting was frail, the loops and lines shaky with age, yet the single word was written with a heavy, deliberate pressure. This was a story someone had waited a lifetime to tell. My own hands trembled slightly as I unfolded the crisp, white paper. The contrast was stark, this modern, clean sheet against the brittle, yellowed letters of 1928. It was like a ghost from the present had stepped into a memory of the past. The letter was long, filling the entire page. The date at the top was stunning, June 12, 1994. 66 years after the failed escape. The writer did not sign his name at the bottom, but from the very first line, I knew exactly who it was. It was the stable boy. To whomever finds this. I am an old man now, and the doctors tell me I do not have much time left. There is a weight I have carried on my soul for nearly 70 years. A silence that has cost me more sleep than any storm. I was the stable boy at the Croft estate in the autumn of 1928. And I was the one who betrayed Miss Beatrice. I have read and reread the note I sent her, the one I am sure is with her other letters. I called myself a coward then, and the word is no less true today. What I did not tell her, what I was too terrified to write, was the true nature of the trap her father was setting. It was not just a simple confrontation he had planned. Mr. Croft was a man who did not believe in half measures. He was going to utterly destroy the young man, Sebastian. On the afternoon of October 31st, I saw 2 men arrive at the estate. They were not guests for the ball. They were coarse, cruel-looking men, the kind you hire when you want a job done with no questions asked. Mr. Croft met them by the stables. I hid in a hayloft, my heart in my throat, and I heard him give his instructions. They were to wait by the west gate. When Sebastian arrived, they were to seize him. Mr. Croft had placed a small, valuable silver box from his study in an old satchel. The plan was to force this satchel into Sebastian's hands and then call the constable, who had been conveniently invited to the ball and was already in Mr. Croft's pocket. The charge would be theft. Trespassing with intent to steal from a powerful man. There would be no trial, not a real one. Sebastian would be ruined, his name blackened forever, and he would spend years in prison. Mr. Croft wanted to do more than separate them. He wanted to make an example of Sebastian, to prove to Beatrice that the world outside her gilded cage was a brutal, unforgiving place, and that only he could protect her. He would break the man she loved, and in doing so, break her spirit for good. I was sick with guilt. I had not just cost Miss Beatrice her freedom. I had condemned an innocent man to a living hell. I watched as she was locked in her room, a ghost at her own engagement party. And I knew I had to do something. But what? I was just a boy, and I was terrified of her father. My betrayal had set in motion a terrible machine, and I had no idea how to stop it. The confession continued, the shaky handwriting a testament to the old man's lifelong burden. He had painted a picture of pure, calculated cruelty. But as I read on, the story took one final, unexpected turn. The stable boy, a coward by his own admission, had found a courage he didn't know he possessed. A courage born of guilt. I could not go to the gate myself. Mr. Croft and his men were watching the grounds. But my mind kept turning, frantically searching for a way out. And then I thought of the one person who loved Miss Beatrice as much as I had admired her. The one person her father had cast out because he could not tolerate her kindness, Miss Albright, her governess. She had been dismissed weeks earlier and had taken a small room in the village. After dark, while the music of the ball began to drift from the main house, I slipped out of the estate. I ran the 2 miles to the village as if the devil himself were at my heels. I found Miss Albright packing her trunk, preparing to leave the area for good. I poured out the whole story, the letters, my betrayal, the silver box, the men waiting at the gate. I have never seen a woman's face change so fast. The gentle sadness in her eyes turned into a cold, hard fire. She did not hesitate. She looked at me and said, "We will not let him win." She had a small amount of money saved. She pressed it into my hand and told me to go to the livery stable and hire the fastest carriage they had, and to tell the driver to wait for her on the road a mile west of the estate, no questions asked. I did as I was told. When I returned, she was dressed for travel, a heavy coat over her dress. She was the one in the carriage Sebastian saw. She made the driver stop before they reached the estate and went the rest of the way on foot, through the dark woods. She intercepted Sebastian on the path leading to the gate, moments before he would have walked into the trap. I know this because I watched from a distance, hidden in the trees. I saw her speak to him urgently. I saw the hope drain from his face, replaced by shock and horror. I saw him argue, and I saw her press something into his hand. I believe it was the money she had, and point him away, toward the road. She saved him. She was Beatrice's last, true act of love, delivered by the hand of her loyal friend. Miss Albright returned to the carriage an hour later, her face pale but resolved. She was gone before dawn. I never saw her again. I placed this confession, along with the letters I found in Miss Beatrice's room after her wedding, back in the secret compartment of this cabinet, which was moved to the stables for storage. I hoped that one day, the full truth would be known. Miss Beatrice lived out her life as Lady Ashworth. I saw her sometimes, from a distance. The fire in her eyes was gone. But she was safe. And because of Miss Albright, so was he. I put the final page down, my heart full to bursting. It was a tragedy, yes, but it was also a story of quiet, defiant heroism. A dismissed governess and a guilt-ridden stable boy had conspired to thwart the plans of a powerful man. Beatrice had lost her love, but she had saved his life. And Sebastian had not simply wandered away heartbroken. He had been warned, rescued by a final, desperate act of loyalty. The story was complete. It wasn't just about a failed escape. It was about the enduring power of love and the unexpected courage of ordinary people, their final, secret rebellion hidden for a lifetime in the dark of a forgotten cabinet. After reading the stable boy's confession, I didn't move for a long time. The setting sun cast long shadows across my living room, and the old mahogany cabinet seemed to draw them all in, holding its secrets in the deep, dark grain of the wood. The story was finally complete. All the frayed threads had been woven together, not into the beautiful tapestry Beatrice and Sebastian had dreamed of, but into a stark, poignant, and profoundly human picture of love, cruelty, and quiet courage. I felt a strange sense of ownership, of guardianship. These were not just names on a page anymore. They were people whose joys and sorrows I had held in my hands. I could feel Beatrice's suffocating despair, Sebastian's agonizing hope turning to dust, the stable boy's lifelong guilt, and the steely, unsung heroism of Miss Albright. In my mind, she is the true hero of this story, a woman who, having lost everything, risked what little she had left for the sake of a young woman she cared for, performing an act of pure, selfless loyalty and then disappearing from history. An invisible savior. With a reverence I didn't know I possessed, I began to put the story back to rest. I carefully folded each letter, placing them in their original chronological order. Beatrice's first hopeful words, Sebastian's passionate replies, the frantic plans, the devastating warnings, the unsent goodbye, his heartbroken farewell, and finally, the old man's confession laid gently on top, a final chapter that reframed everything. The bundle felt different now. It was heavier, imbued with the full weight of the truth. I retied the faded blue silk ribbon, its fragile threads a perfect metaphor for the delicate connections that had bound these lives together. As I slid the bundle back into the hollow space at the back of the drawer, I felt a deep and abiding sadness. I thought of Beatrice, living out her days as Lady Ashworth, a beautiful, hollow shell. Did she ever find moments of happiness? Or did she forever see Sebastian's face in the crowds, forever dream of a cottage by the sea in Cornwall? And Sebastian, did he find peace in Paris or beyond? Did he ever paint again with the same passion, or was his art forever tinged with the melancholy of his great loss? I hoped he had found love again, but the finality in his last letter suggested a heart broken beyond repair. Their tragedy was not that they died, but that they were forced to live apart, their love story frozen in time, a perfect, unfinished thing. The click of the false bottom sliding back into place sounded unnaturally loud in the quiet room. The secret was safe again. The mahogany cabinet now stands in the place of honor in my study. It is no longer just a beautiful piece of antique furniture. It is a silent monument. It is a tomb for a love that never got to live, and it is a shrine to the quiet heroes who tried to save it. Sometimes, I run my hands over the polished wood, and I wonder about the countless other stories that lie sleeping in forgotten objects all over the world, waiting for a curious hand to awaken them. How many love letters, confessions, and unsent goodbyes are tucked away in the linings of old coats, pressed between the pages of forgotten books, or hidden in the false bottoms of drawers. The story of Beatrice and Sebastian has changed me. It serves as a powerful reminder that history is not just made up of grand battles and famous names. It is woven from the small, secret struggles of ordinary people, from the choices they make in the face of impossible odds. Their story is a tragedy, but it is not without a sliver of light. It is a testament to the fact that even when great evil is done, small acts of goodness can still shine through. The loyalty of a governess, the remorse of a stable boy, these were the flickers of light in the profound darkness of Beatrice's fate. And so, I share this story with you, not to lament a love that was lost, but to honor a love that was fought for. To give a voice to Beatrice, whose spirit refused to be completely extinguished, and to Sebastian, whose heart was true to the very end. And perhaps most of all, to remember Miss Albright, a woman whose name would have been lost to time, but whose courage provided the story's final, grace note. Their voices, silent for nearly a century, have been heard once more. They remind us to be brave, to be loyal, and to never underestimate the power of a story hidden in plain sight, waiting to be found. Thank you for listening. And so, the cabinet keeps its secrets once more, but now, they are shared. The voices of Beatrice, Sebastian, and the quiet heroes who surrounded them are no longer silent. When I first found these letters, I thought I had discovered a simple tragedy, a story of a love that was lost to time and cruelty. But the more I reflect on it, the more I realize it's a story about the different kinds of courage. There is the passionate courage of two lovers willing to risk everything. But there is also another, quieter courage, the courage of a governess who performs one last, selfless act of loyalty, and the courage of a young boy who spends a lifetime carrying the weight of his regret and finds the strength at the end to finally tell the truth. The greatest lesson here, for me, is that the most heroic acts are often the ones that go unseen. There was no parade for Miss Albright. No one ever knew the sacrifice she made to save a man she'd never met, all for the love of a girl she considered a daughter. It's a powerful reminder that goodness can and does exist, even in the darkest of corners, expecting no reward. Perhaps this story resonates with you in some way. We all face our own gilded cages, our own impossible choices. Maybe you've felt trapped by circumstances, or perhaps you've been the one to offer a helping hand when no one else would, a quiet act of kindness that changed someone's path forever. I would truly love to read your thoughts in the comments below. What part of this story will stay with you the most? Did the final confession change your perspective on everything? And if you feel comfortable sharing, has a theme from this story, of sacrifice, of a difficult choice, of a love that couldn't be, ever echoed in your own life? Thank you so much for joining me on this journey and for giving this story your time and attention. If you enjoyed uncovering this hidden piece of the past, please consider subscribing and becoming a part of this community. There are countless other forgotten stories out there, and together, we can give them a voice. Until next time, remember to look closely. You never know what secrets are waiting to be told.